Hello everyone. Today we're talking about one of the most influential game series of all times. One of the GOATs. After 14 years and countless playthroughs, it still breaks my heart, of course. It's the Mass Effect series. The angry metal god squids have returned, and BioWare has blessed us with Mass Effect Legendary Edition. A remastered version of the first 3 games, all wrapped up in a shiny new package that makes it even easier to pretend Andromeda never happened. Praise be, Shepard is risen. If you've never cracked open this series, allow me to be like every other toxic bro you've ever been on a Tinder date with and give you some unsolicited advice. Go play this game. And I don't care how much you've heard about how bad the ending to 3 is. Those people are wrong. This is one of the most influential series in the game industry, and if you ask me, it still holds up. This game series isn't just immensely important to me personally, but it set a new standard for what games could be way back in the good old days of 2007. I consider this to be the Wizard of Oz of gaming. There are plenty of classic works before it, but Mass Effect is a watershed moment in modern gaming storytelling. The Mass Effect trilogy is a beast of a sci-fi game. If you're unfamiliar, think of this series as Star Trek meets actual fun mixed with a dating simulator. You play as Commander Shepard, a space cop who balances politics and tries to save the galaxy, all while trying to figure out which character you're going to take to Pound Town. Come on, if you don't try to bag Garrus, you're just lying to yourself. But Mass Effect is also so much more than that. This series has incredible writing, a rich cast of characters that you build connections with over the course of the trilogy, and some really crazy narrative twists. Mass Effect is one of the least passive narrative games of all time. Every decision you make has consequences that might not even fully reveal themselves until the final chapter. You really have ownership over this narrative in a way that you don't see very often. Just like in real life, your actions can have major consequences. So, try not to screw this one up, okay? Dad, you were right. I should have tried law school. What also makes this series so novel is the ability to carry your save files from game to game, making each full trilogy playthrough a unique and customized experience. This is something you don't see in a lot of games, and even in games that do, like Witcher and Dragon Age, it's not to this extent. The remastered trilogy boasts an updated look and feel with brand new textures and graphics, which some people are more excited about than others. It also updates some of the outdated game mechanics, especially in Mass Effect 1. And for those of you who missed playing the first game because of the Xbox exclusivity in 2007, this is your chance to get furiously angry at the Mako exploration levels for the first time. I'm almost jealous. Where the is this satellite? And this is why I'm so excited that this series was remastered, because it not only lets fans revisit the world, but it also makes it accessible to newcomers. Look, not everything about this remaster is perfect, we'll get into it, but it is definitely worth checking out. Having spent all my free time this past week playing Legendary Edition, I have a lot of thoughts. Let's start with the graphics. The new textures really make a difference here, most notably with the environments. Places like Eden Prime and Vermeer have a whole new dimension to them now. While the characters themselves still look a little uncanny valley, they're at least making eye contact with each other. BioWare presents butt shots now in HD. You're welcome, everyone. This next improvement is a biggie and really life-changing. Elevators. If you know, you know. If you don't, let me explain it to you. In the OG Mass Effect, you spend just as much time in elevators waiting for the game to load as you did trying to romance Garrus, that wily minx. And while you still use elevators quite a bit in this game, the ride is now quicker. Unlike before, when you had time to just think. Oh yeah, I sure love Mass Effect. Oh yeah, I should really be checking in on my Dogecoin as well. Oh man, I wouldn't worry about that if I had actually gone to law school. But now I just play video games for a living, so I have to be looking at the Dogecoin. Oh my god, what am I doing? The sweats! We're here. While so much about this remaster is amazing, it's not perfect. BioWare updated some of the combat from Mass Effect 1, but it's still a game from 2007, and it shows. I know there are those who profess a love for the more turn-based approach of Mass Effect 1, but in terms of presenting the game to a wider and younger audience, the archaic mechanics are a significant obstacle. I urge you to stick it through the first game, though, because the decisions you make in that first game have major consequences for the remaining two. In fact, just put Mass Effect 1 on easy mode and just play it for the story. It's okay. I told you you can do it. If someone complains, you send them to me. And speaking of UI, the upgrading system and modding in the first game is still confusing. Here's a few tips. Give all of your first aid items to your squad mates because it'll heal all three of you. Convert anything you don't want to Omnigel. You'll thank me later. And lastly, pay attention to the buttons because X doesn't always do what you think it'll do. Moving on. Even if you don't know much about Mass Effect, you probably heard about its famously impossible-to-drive tank, the M35 Mako. Oh, Mako, how we love to hate driving you around Therum for 2 hours, accidentally lurching into lava pits and falling off of cliffs. One of the most anticipated upgrades in Legendary Edition is the Mako controls. Does this now handle like a GTA 5 Ferrari, or is it still like you're driving your grandpa's 1980 Buick with beer goggles on? It's still bad. Okay, sure, it's better than the original release, but so is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and that movie is still garbage. Please send your comments to kevinpereira@g4tv.com. I love that you can play this game in different ways to get a completely different gaming experience, but I don't like the strict Paragon Renegade binary. If you choose a majority of altruistic and compassionate dialogue options, you'll be labeled as Paragon, while if you play aggressively and rude, you'll achieve Renegade status. Both of these options open up a wealth of interesting story possibilities, but there's nothing there for a more neutral or nuanced playthrough. But that's really about all the criticism I can give this franchise. Even after 14 years, the game is still good. And no, I'm not going to criticize the Mass Effect 3 ending because that too is good. Yes, I said it back in 2012, and I'm saying it now. The last 10 minutes of that game are not the ending. The entire game is an ending, and it is satisfying, existential, and written for adults. Of course, it's not going to look like it's absolutely personalized on top of that cake your mom got you from Subway, you selfish, entitled little... Well, you know what I mean. And while we're at it, I know there's some frustrations about Mass Effect 3's multiplayer not being included. Come on. You just got a remaster of 3 massive games and all of their DLC, and you're complaining about the lack of multiplayer. You know why you're complaining about the lack of multiplayer? Because it isn't there. You're acting like someone who goes to Disneyland and bitches about the lack of Smurfs. And it's like, I could do that, but I have this thing, maybe it's called morals, that prevents me from it. Mass Effect is the perfect argument for the potential of game franchises. Save game porting and having your actions directly affect subsequent games in the series is something that more big developers should take advantage of. It just makes for a better user experience overall when used correctly. I love Mass Effect, and if you haven't played this series, I highly recommend giving it a chance. Of course, no game is for everybody, but never have I seen a sci-fi game franchise have the broad appeal of Mass Effect. Seriously, play this game. Don't disappoint, Garrus.